Hello, good morning. I hope that you're all well. Gosh, all the things that have happened since I last recorded a video. It's 2 weeks ago I last recorded a video because the weekend before the video was pre-recorded because I was in Cincinnati, or I should say North Kentucky, at the Queen City Sampler Guild's workshop. What an amazing time it was. I have to say thank you to everybody who attended. You were amazing students, and each and every one of you really made the trip so worthwhile and so enjoyable. The organisers, Patty and Lisa, they did a truly amazing job. They chose a super hotel. It was scrupulously clean with very good facilities, an exceptionally good restaurant, and the food that the guild had arranged for the attendees was delicious and so plentiful. The event room was spacious, the acoustics, the electronic equipment was top notch, the lighting was very good as well, and it just, everything about it was amazing. The guild arranged for some wonderful goodies for attendees. I would show you them, but I haven't unpacked. All I've taken out of my suitcases was my dirty laundry and 2 samplers. I've just been so busy, but when I do unpack, I will show you the gifts in a future Flosstube. When I got home, I had been slammed with orders for Hannah Green and Charlotte Amelia Stevens. So I need to say a huge thank you. You never cease to amaze me. The Queen of the May always does very, very well. But I have to say that the Queen of the May for 2024, Hannah Green, has been our quickest seller ever. In the first 5 days of this sampler's release, it actually sold at a faster rate than the Uffendale sisters, and that was some record to beat. So thank you to everybody. This is just a stunning, stunning sampler. It's a sampler that when you see it in person, you go, you know, it's just the colours, the harmony, everything about it just sings. And I'm so thrilled that so many of you have seen that in this sampler. Thank you so much. Now, since I've released this sampler, I've had a run on the pillow covers. I have got some left, but there's not that many sets of the pillow covers. The sets come with 2 pillow covers. One side you have Hannah Green, and the other side you have Mary Wigglesworth. And one of the ladies who bought, she bought actually 2 sets of the pillow covers. She said that she was going to unpick the pillow covers and turn them into project bags. What an amazing idea. Honestly, you're all so creative and inventive. Charlotte Amelia Stevens has been very popular as well. I did say in my pre-recorded video that if you were an Ada stitcher, or even a stitcher that doesn't like working over one, that we would help you rechart the over one sections. And we had our first request in the week for Charlotte Amelia Stevens to have her verse and sentiment recharted. Sandra has done that, so that is now available. I will, if you would like those sections over too, I'm not available until about Tuesday to deal with those requests, but after Tuesday I will respond to emails asking for the recharted version. When I got home, there were just so many orders that I really had to, you know, head down and pack. And I had actually pre-prepared everything so I could just be putting labels on envelopes before I left. But the sales far exceeded the ones I had ready, and we had to, I knew before I came back from the States I had to reorder the booklets, and they've arrived, but when I got home I actually had to order more cellophane bags, more envelopes as well. But I do hope that by Tuesday, everybody who's ordered these charts, your order will have shipped. I'm not able to have done it any quicker. I have physically, used every moment I can to pack. It was just the sheer volume of orders. So just thank you for bearing with me on that. Raise Away. I actually, as I was driving home from the airport, I passed him and a group of his friends going up to the airport. He's in Turkey playing golf. So I miss him dreadfully because it's a long time since I've seen him because I was away. But in a way, with him being away, I've been able to spend more time packing. So it was a double-edged sword, that one. Now, yesterday, I announced the free workshop for Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework. It's just amazing. I think I released it about 11:30 in the morning UK time, and before I went to bed, which was just before midnight, over 1,000 people had downloaded that PDF. So it looks like we're going to have a really good stitch along stroke workshop for this little sampler. Now, this little sampler, there is no cost whatsoever. The graph is free and the workshop tutorials are free. I consider this as putting back into the needlework community, which in return gives me so much joy and pleasure. I've always enjoyed needlework, but being able to share and observe your enjoyment boosts my enjoyment as well. And I've learned so much from other needleworkers that it's me putting back in, it's passing it on. And I hope that everybody who learns something from this workshop passes that knowledge on. We're all teachers. If we know how to do something and we share that knowledge, we are a teacher, and we are, all of us, putting back into needlework. I do think that the way the world is moving so quickly, and especially with everything that's changing through AI, it would be awful if our skills, our handcraft skills, are lost. Okay, right, so let's talk about this workshop. If you go to the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website and you go into online workshops, or if you go into, samplers, the first item that's available at the moment is the workshop, and it shows as the logo for Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework. If you click on it, it opens up the page. There's no charge. What you need to do is not click on the yellow Express checkout button, because that takes you to PayPal, and PayPal won't process it because there's no charge. What you need to do is pop the item into your shopping basket and then go to your basket and just check out. It will check out at zero charge. You will receive a link via an email. Now, if you don't receive that email, it's not because one has not been sent. Our system automatically and instantaneously sends that email. If you don't receive it in your inbox, check your spam and promotion boxes. If it's not in any of those, it means that your email provider has not accepted the email. It's surprising how many providers block emails coming in. If that is the case, the way to do it is to register an account with Hands Across the Sea Samplers. It doesn't cost you anything to register. Or if you're already registered, make sure you're logged into your account when you check out. And what that means is you don't need to rely on an email to access the file. All you need to do after you've checked out is go into your account and go into your order history and your download history, and the link will be there for you. There are two links. One is for a 3-page colour chart, and the other link is for a 1-page colour chart. The one-page charts are not designed to be printed, but they're designed to be viewed on your TV, your PC, your phone, or your tablet. When you open that up, you will find that there are no stitch instructions with this graph or no list of colour shades. This is all going to be dealt with each week through the online stitch tutorials. And the way you will access the stitch tutorials is for however many weeks it takes. My Sunday Flosstube will include a section with the video tutorial, and I will talk to you about the ins and outs of the stitch. What I would like everybody to do is have a little exercise book, a little notebook, and after you've watched the video once or maybe several times and you've thought about what you're seeing, that you write your own instructions. When we have to think, that's when we understand. So what you should do in your little exercise book is sketch out the stitch path and then write your own instructions. That way you learn. You learn through understanding, and understanding the mechanics of the stitch is so important. With regards to the fabric, you have the stitch count. If you go to the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website under Sewing Basket and Tools, if you click on that, in the drop-down box, the first item is a fabric calculator. You will be able to work out your calculations for the size of the fabric that you want. And at this stage, maybe you should stop and think about how you would like to finish this little sampler. Do you want to frame it? Do you want to turn it into a housewife? Or would you like to pop it onto a spool? How you're going to finish it will determine what margins you need on your fabric. And on the fabric calculator, you can pop in your margin sizes and the count of fabric you're using, and it will tell you your design size and your overall fabric size. Now, if you don't have a piece of fabric the right orientation, I have lots of pieces of fabric this size when I trim off for framing or cutting out pieces of linen. But if you don't worry about buying a piece of linen. Use scraps of linen and stitch sections of, stitch the stitches that we're going to be learning on different sections, and then you can put that scrap of linen into your exercise book. And if you have an exercise book with written stitch instructions, a sketch of the stitch path and a sample of the stitching, you're making a needle specimen book, and that's something that you will have forever after. So in 10 years time, if you find you're going to need to stitch one of these stitches, you can go back to your specimen book and look and see how you did it. And because you would have written in the instructions, that's understandable to you. And because you have the diagram or you have the actual little stitched sample, it'll just be all there for you to work that stitch. This is suitable for Ada or for linen. It was very important to me that this project worked on Ada as well. With regards to threads, you are free to use whatever colours you want. In the sampler, you have 2 greens, a yellow, a blue, a sort of mauvey purple, a red and a black. You can have less colours, you can have more colours, and you can have completely different colours and whatever shade of those colours that you want. The size of the fabric doesn't matter. The thread that you use is completely up to you. But in this little sampler, the very last stitch we look, well, no, it's not the last stitch, it's towards the end, it's the 4th stitch from the end. We will be working Berlin lace work. And to do that, you need your standard thread, but you also need a finer thread. And don't go buying anything. You know, this is something to do from stash. If you haven't got a finer embroidery thread, you can always use plain black sewing cotton. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. Okay, so this is the time where you get your supplies ready, and then next week we will start, and we're going to be starting with how to start your thread. We'll explore the different ways of starting and then ending your thread, and we will begin with cross stitch. And funny enough, cross stitch was not the first stitch that the girls learned from years ago. The first stitch they learned was running stitch, because they had to hem their scrap of fabric and they needed running stitch to do that. But our first stitch is going to be cross stitch. The stitches we're going to be looking at are cross stitch, which will include cross stitch over 1 and 2. There is no cross stitch over 1 in this little sampler, but we're going to look at it. And then we're going to look at 2 different versions of reversible cross stitch. There isn't reversible cross stitch in this, but because we're touching on cross stitch, we're going to explore it in depth. We're going to look at running stitch, and because we're looking at running stitch, we're going to look at double running stitch. There is no double running stitch in this little sampler, but you can add it. We're going to look at back stitch, 2 different versions of herringbone stitch. And I do think that when you're looking at herringbone stitch, it's well worth exploring long arm cross stitch. Again, there's no long arm cross stitch in this little sampler, but we're going to look at it. We're going to look at blanket stitch, half stitch, chain stitch, double feather stitch, elongated cross stitch, fern stitch, long arm feather stitch, Smyrna cross. And because we're going to look at Smyrna cross, even though it's not in here, we're going to look at Algerian eyelets as well. Then we're going to look at satin stitch, Berlin lacework and turkey knot. So this little sampler, just with the stitches in it, is going to give us a lot, but we're also going to learn some extra stitches as well, because they naturally flow from the stitches in here. Now, I want to show you something, but I forgot to get it. I'll be back to show you. This little sampler, which was, you know, probably a starting piece for a young child, is no different to this sampler. It's exactly the same thing. It's a record of various different stitches. Now, oh, I've got this upside down. There we are. It's a record of various different stitches. Isn't that a stunning piece of needlework? And doing something like this could lead to doing something like this. Maybe, and I'm only saying maybe, a possible workshop for the future. We'll see about that. But it's funny, every single stitch that's in that little sampler we're going to be doing is actually in this one as well. And so many of those stitches are foundation stitches for the more complex stitches in this sampler. Learning how to do reversible cross stitch can lead to working a sampler. I got that upside down as well. Hold on, let me get this the right way. This sampler, working it to this standard. That's the back of this sampler. Isn't that amazing? It is absolutely perfect. So there's the front. Let me get this right for you to see. And there's the back. And it's just a question of knowing how. And we're going to learn how through working that little sampler. So join me every week starting next weekend for a tutorial on each of those stitches. Like, after you've watched the video, you might want to watch it more than once. It'll probably take you, what, 10 minutes to write the stitch instructions and probably half an hour to stitch out the stitch. The cross stitching, there is quite a bit of cross stitching in this because you've got all the alphabets, but you could sort of do the alphabets each week, you know, put them into little groups and work your way across. But, you know, when we explore, for example, the running stitch, that's only going to take you a short while to stitch out. So every week there'll be a little assignment for you to do. But you can also do this at your own pace as well. Okay, learning new stitches opens up so much for you. This little piece I wanted to show you. This piece of needlework, it's a pillow for wedding rings, and this was the very first piece of hardanger I had ever done. And this pattern is a Victoria sampler pattern, and I remember sitting down with the pattern, looking at the instructions, which were excellent, and the diagrams were excellent, but also having Yvette Stanton's book about hardanger as well. And literally every stitch that's in here I learnt doing this piece. And after I had worked this piece, I'd learnt so much, and it opened up the door to so many other hardanger projects. And after this I went into full production, making table mats and runners and all sorts of things. It opened up the door to other projects and possibilities for me. This is for my son's wedding. It's a long time ago now. It was 2012, that was 12 years ago. Gosh, time goes so quickly. What do you need? The other thing that you need for this project is a needle, your thread, your linen, your normal stitching equipment, you know, if you stitch on a hoop or a frame, if you use a light or magnified. But what you're also going to need is a pair of scissors. And I'd just like to talk to you about scissors. One of the questions I was asked last weekend by an attendee at my workshop was why the back of her work had lots of tufts on it. She couldn't understand how to get rid of the tufts. And basically, you need a good pair of scissors. Now, by a good pair of scissors, I don't mean a dreadfully expensive pair of scissors. I mean a pair of scissors that are not only sharp, but have fine blades. Now, when I say fine blades, I don't mean the tip. What I mean by fine blades is the thickness of the blades. When you cut with these scissors, right, so when you cut with these scissors, you could only cut down to the base of the thread by the thickness of the blades. Now, these are a beautiful pair of scissors. They look so lovely in one of my scissor spools. They're very decorative. They actually work very well. But the one thing that this pair of scissors does not do, because of the thickness of the blades, is get down to the base of the thread. Now, these scissors have a very fine blade. It's difficult to show this. This blade is very fine. So when I am cutting a thread with this pair, I can get down to a hair's breadth to the base of that thread. And that's why using these scissors gives me a neater finish on the back of my work. When I was sort of a relatively novice stitcher, I didn't know these little tricks, but as you gain experience, you realise the importance of certain tools. So you don't have to spend huge amounts of money on scissors, but always think about how sharp they are and the thickness of the blade. It will make a difference. And it doesn't have to be this brand of scissors. It could be any brand of scissors, but you just need to judge that thickness. Okay, right. when I got back from the States, I came back with the piece of linen I've been waiting months for, and it's to start my Spanish sampler. Well, I say mine, it's mine and Lisa's Spanish sampler. This sampler is just so beautiful, and I've been dreaming about stitching it. I've stitched this sampler so many times in my sleep as I've been dreaming about it. This week I managed to make a start, and I couldn't spend much time because I've been so busy packing, but it was just so joyful to sit down with this sampler and get some stitches in and seeing it growing. When you look at a new piece of linen with nothing on it, and then you start putting those stitches in, it's such a magical moment as you see this sampler come into life. When I've got more done, I will share it with you, but I want to sort of get some of the panels developing on this sampler before I show it. I'm really looking forward to every night grabbing an hour or so where I can stitch, and if I'm lucky I'll be able to grab more than a few hours. With Ray being away, it's surprising how many more things I have to do around the house. He's so good taking care of me and just doing so much. But there we are. He'll be back soon, back on Wednesday. Okay, so until next weekend, where we have our first tutorial for our Stitch Along workshop, stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.